Monday
Kick us
Fun Day.
off.
It's Monday Fun Day, man. Mojo Monday. We're here to
Monday
lighten,
Fun Day,
brighten.
Sunday Fun Day, Monday Fun Day,
It's Monday
Mojo
Fun Day.
Monday.
We're here to lighten the mood, enhance and grow you, and get you excited about what's ahead for your week.
Why do we do this, Rick? I know that's impromptu, but what's in your heart around this Monday morning video that we do every week?
I mean, I'll be honest, when you participate in bringing positivity to the universe, there's a mirrored effect or a reciprocal effect that hits you right. And so I feel better long before we actually do it. And at the end of it, I feel like I did something that mattered, and I hopefully made a difference. And even just having our conversation is the boost I need to launch my day right.
100%. I think, of course, my heart is pouring into our people and anybody that watches this. Better yet, we're even talking about making this podcast going forward, right? But
yeah,
at the end of the day, it feels like the message is a really strong, powerful message, and sometimes I'm the one that needs to hear it, right?
That's
and
it.
Sometimes, even though we're given the message, it's a great reminder to ourselves around mindset and all the above, right?
That's right. And we all go through dips and, valleys and peaks. And so wherever you are, we want to meet you there and just make it a little bit better.
Awesome. So there's a guy named Murphy. Who's Murphy?
Well, he's a cat that decided that certain things are inevitable and a lot of them are negative.
All right. So we're going to cover the epitome of Murphy's Law today. And where's the inspiration on this one coming from?
Well, actually, Sean Damon has a poster in his house, and it's in complete transparency. It's in one of his bathrooms, and I've read it many times or parts of it. It's a list of all the circumstances where Murphy's Law might apply. It's a negative spin on just about everything that might happen.
Got it. So we've got a video. Let me get the video going.
And it makes me laugh. I find humor in it. Just so you know, it's not, although it's negative, how you receive information will dictate the effect it has on your motor neurons and your ultimate behavior.
Love it. Extra credit when somebody can tell me what language this is written in, but we'll go. Here we go, Rick.
Welcome to a new Draw My Life video. You have probably gone through this 1,000 times. The one day you leave your house without an umbrella, it pours with rain. You buy something in the vending machine and it gets stuck. Every time you drop a slice of toast, it always falls with the butter side down. You probably think it's a conspiracy in the universe against you. But no, most of these misfortunes can be explained through the Murphy's Law, which says that anything that can go wrong will go wrong. We are not the first ones to realize that these things happen. The famous Scottish poet Robert Burns wrote in 1786 that the best laid schemes of mice and men often go awry. In 1884, the novelist James Payn presented the example of bread and butter for the first time. But it wasn't until 1949 that Murphy's Law, or laws, appeared as such thanks to the aerospace engineer Edward Aloysius Murphy, after whom they were named. Edward worked for the Army in the US in big projects such as the Apollo or the Apache helicopter, developing security systems. He carried out a project for the US Air Force to calculate the G-force, which measures the effect of acceleration due to gravity a person can tolerate when stopping abruptly. After several attempts, Edward modified the design but didn't get any results. He inspected carefully the connections of the cables set by his assistant. There were two possible ways of establishing the connection between the sensors, and it turned out they were all wrong. Not even one was right. So, Murphy said, if there is a wrong way to do something, then someone will do it. Little by little, the expression Murphy's Law became famous, and what had been born as a principle of security to take into account in engineering turned out to be a famous version of the inevitability of disasters. But how much is it true when we're talking about the Murphy's Laws? It all sounds like coincidence or superstition. However, though it might seem weird, science is behind many of these pessimistic statements. In 1996, the scientist Robert A.J. Matthews, after several experiments, proved that the Murphy's Laws are not about bad luck, but about pure physics. He got an Ig Nobel Prize for this. Going back to the famous slice of toast that always falls with the butter side down, he demonstrated, based on the mechanics of a rigid solid and the rotation speed, that for a slice of bread to rotate completely and not end up smashed on the floor, the table should be more than 2.5 meters tall. Unfortunately, IKEA doesn't sell any tables this high. It wouldn't be practical for human beings. Another Murphy's Law is related to the negativity bias and selective memory. We tend to remember bad things that happen to us and consider them more important. If something goes wrong once, it's gonna be stuck in our heads more than the other 1,000 times that actually went right. This is something inherent to our human condition and our survival instinct. Matthews also talked about another foundation, the illusory correlation. According to it, when we're in a traffic jam, we always have the feeling of being in the slowest lane. This happens because we spend more time looking at other cars going past us than looking at ourselves going past others. Another reason he gives is statistics and logic. If we get to a place where there are two lines, probably the one going slower will have more people and there are bigger chances that we'll be in that line. If there are 4 lines and we choose one, there is a 75% probability of one of the other lines being faster. Also, if we lose a sock, it's more likely that the next sock that we lose is from a different pair, because other complete pairs are the ones we're gonna be using. Murphy's laws have become famous in order to explain negative incidents in our daily lives that happen accidentally, to justify how jinxed we are or why the universe is against us. But truth is, if we investigate, almost all of these principles have an obvious reason, as it has been proved throughout the years. Tic-Tackers, leave a comment telling us about your experiences with the Murphy's laws. If you enjoyed this video,
All right.
Tic-Tackers, Rick, the Tic-Tackers.
Tic-Tackers are coming in hard.
There you go.
Leave it.
What'd you hear?
Well, leave it to an engineer to actually qualify and quantify Murphy's law based on physics. We're, interestingly enough, a high C is going to see things differently than, a naturally wired high D or I optimist. And our pool of friends, tend to fall more likely in the ID category.
Sure.
But I think it's fascinating. The fact that, by the way, in case you guys didn't have your conversion table out, in order for it to rotate a full time and land butter side up, you just need 7.5 foot tables.
I was about to say, I know I'm 2 meters and I'm 6'7", Rick. So I was thinking
7.5, man. I did the quick math. I'm like, damn, that's a tall table. IKEA or not.
Wow. So
Can't think of the last time I lost bread though to the floor upside down. I don't know. Maybe
I
I'm
don't
better.
really eat buttered toast these days, so it's been a while. But
Probably okay.
all right. So here's the definition of Murphy's law: anything that can go wrong will go wrong. So
Wow.
the thing about that, though, Rick, is it's almost the definition of pessimism, right? Like, if it's gonna go wrong, it's gonna go wrong. And it puts us in such a negative headspace. And I know we're going to talk about it first and then kind of come back to that negative headspace and really how that affects us as humans, or as business people, or as friends, or just how we go about our day. But how do you hear it defined? Just around pessimism, or what?
That's exactly what it is. It's allowing out external forces to dictate how you feel about them. And, I think it's accurate and fair to say that we shall accept some version of reality. If you're dealing with the consequences of unfortunate circumstance, but at the same time, the effect on you is what you should be paying attention to. And the realization that there's two voices, there's two one is you can't really stop that first experience, like how you naturally react organically. You can control what your second thought is. And so part of this is the first thought might fall prey to Murphy's law or some elements of it, but then it's what you do with it that ultimately dictates your mood, your way you manage that energy.
Right. So I want to give everybody an incredible opportunity to see what's on the wall of Sean Damon's restroom. And it's this poster here, right? And I'm going to zoom in. But I think it's so funny that right off the bat, it says Murphy was an optimist, right? And then obviously I don't want to go through all these or we'll never get to our talk, but the other line always moves faster, right? If
Yeah.
you fool around with a thing for long, you will screw it up. If it jams, force it. If it breaks, it needed replacing anyway. You know, there's so many little sayings that are kind of colloquialisms. What are the sayings you grew up remembering, Rick, that just kind of resonate to you on what Murphy's Law is?
Yeah. I mean, no good deed goes unpunished. I've heard that many times. And, it always rubs me funny because I can only imagine that the impact of really feeling that way, just because you do something thoughtful and kind and it doesn't turn out the way you wanted. I'd hate to think that then impacts your decision chain later when it comes to another opportunity. Yeah. And
that one of the things the video brought up, besides the caricature of William Shatner going to space and the G-force, was your reticular activating system and your RAS, right? So what's your RAS? Your RAS is, if I buy a black Mercedes, I drive down the street, all I see are black Mercedes. And it just means my brain and my subconscious is now in tune with what I'm looking for.
Right.
Well, in this context, we're almost kind of expecting it to go wrong.
Yeah.
We're looking for it to go wrong. And that what they talked about in the video is those moments in our life, we remember those moments more than the good moments, right?
Yeah.
And you and I've talked on this Monday morning series about your early childhood profession. What did you do again?
I wasn't even a child. I was in college, but you're right. It was my first legitimate job where I felt empowered to earn real money. And at the time, real money was probably 10 or 15 bucks an hour. And that would have been in the 80s. But yeah, I knocked doors. I sold subscriptions to the paper, and I knew that I had to hit 80 to 90 doors to sell 4 or 5 subscriptions in a given day.
Yeah. But I'm going to challenge you though. Give me some of the horror stories of that experience that are stuck in your mind.
I mean, I was certainly bitten by a dog, chased out of someone's yard with a gun in hand. I've had a few experiences that were less than awesome.
You remember those clear as day, right?
Yeah. I actually got arrested once.
Oh, that's great.
They let me out.
Leave that one out.
Well, someone called the police. They thought that I was, sneaking around looking to, maybe steal something. But ultimately, they recognized I was permitted and legal. So it worked out. But those are the thoughts you remember.
But tell me a good experience.
It's a little harder. I sold 5 a night. Those were all nice people. But, it's not as easy. We lock down on certain things that are worthy of retelling.
Yeah. Why are we wired that way? Why do we remember the negative and tend to just not hold on to the good?
I think some of it's self-preservation and the way if you go back to the early days of the human experience, man, there were lots of villains and scary things. We didn't just go to the fridge and grab, leftover pizza. You had to go out and hunt and kill and figure. And I just think there's certain things your body's wired to first protect itself. And that usually means taking a defensive perspective.
Yeah. Which is everything that Murphy's Law is saying is hey, by the way, feel normal. The negative is going to happen, right?
Yeah.
And it almost looks like it's the comedy of yesterday talking about what Murphy's Law is. I know you interviewed a comedian today or a Friday for the Millionaire series, which was just amazing. But at the end of the day, isn't that what we just hold on to, is all the negative sometimes? And we want to make comedy of it later, but when it happens to us, it's pretty traumatic.
Yeah.
And it lights up that reticular activating system. So we tend to find more of it happening.
Yeah. Well, you have to realize your brain is just riddle solver and is trying to connect the dots between experiences that favor survival. And so to your point, when, negative things show up, your brain immediately goes back into the recesses of your life experiences and tries to confirm or deny that as truth. And so the better question might be, okay, if you can't ignore, the way your brain works and motor neurons, how fast can you eliminate things that aren't serving you well or at the highest level? Mm-hmm. And so how do you spin that story, and how do you, maybe live into more of Jack Canfield's inverse paranoid theory, where if you wake up every day and you just simply decide, and by the way, all this hinges on the theory of, what you focus on expands. And the longer you focus on it, the more expansive it becomes. And so the inverse paranoid theory that Canfield in his book, Success Principles, would suggest is that why not wake up and decide the world favors and honors you and things are happening for you, not to you.
Yeah.
And there's some version of a silver lining or purpose in the experience.
You know, one of my early mentors, Rick, told me to keep a feel-good file. And that was back when we actually had like file folders in a filing cabinet next to our desk. And he said, every time somebody writes you a thank you note or tells you what you mean to them, put that note in a file, because there's going to be many days in your career you're going to need to remind yourself of who you are and pull it out and read those notes. And I actually did that for a number of years, because you're right, we go through life and we have to train our brain or put processes in place to remind us that it's not a pessimistic world as much as it is how we see the world.
Yeah. And I bought into the theory, by the way, door to door, that I would fail forward. When I made a mistake, I'm one step closer to a positive experience and a positive outcome and a sale. And I think it's critical to recognize too what you can and can't control. And if you can't control it, don't carry it around. There's no point in your heart and mind. You've given up rent-free space to someone or something that is irrelevant and not inside your control.
Yeah. I mean, so I was making fun of William Shatner, but and what's funny is Murphy was like the engineer behind the Apollo and the Apache helicopter. He's saying, and he's the guy saying, if something's going to go wrong, it's going to go wrong. And I'm thinking, would I sit in that chair on the Blue Origin rocket that Jeff Bezos made? And I'm 90 years old, William Shatner, for an 11-minute heck yeah ride? I probably would at 90.
But, yeah, I mean, you've got the windshield's a little bit shorter than the rear view.
But, you know, if I really live my life, that if something's going to go wrong, it's going to go wrong, I ain't getting on that rocket.
Yeah.
Right.
You're not taking
we don't
chances.
really live our life. We know we're intelligent enough that that's not how we live our lives, but we tell ourselves that when something negative happens. And we got to learn to change the script, right? So
yes.
Give me, how do you see this in real estate? Like, how do you see this playing out in our world?
Well, simply put, I mean, what if, imagine a negative occurrence, and if you, depending on the value you assign to it, that's how it's going to affect your physical being and your attitude going forward. Sure. And so, as an example, what if you went on a listing appointment and you don't get the listing? I mean, yeah. It can be demoralizing, devaluing. I mean, it's just disappointing, to say the least.
Sure.
But what might you do to manage that, Brett?
Well, I'm going to tell myself I have a 75% conversion ratio, so I just knock the one out and the next three are mine.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you have a really high conversion rate, but if you must be working with past clients and close friends.
I'm good, Rick.
You are that good. But here's the point. You may only be 1 in 5, but now you're 4 closer, or 1 closer to the, inside of the 5th option, and it's coming. It's not if, it's when. And then instead of seeing it as a negative, lean into that and go, hey, not only am I 1 closer, but there's probably a lesson in that experience that if you stop and instead of deflecting and blaming and pointing fingers at why, hey, that dumb seller, man, they don't know me, they don't see me, they don't know what I can do. Why not analyze what you could have done slightly differently, better? And maybe there's nothing. And if it's nothing, then you're just 1 closer. But at least use every detriment as a learning opportunity.
Rick, we talk a lot about gamifying our world. So if you're so focused on one specific experience that went bad, you're going to get so hyper-focused on that, it's going to deflate your whole experience. Yeah. When you back up and you get a little more perspective, we call that gamifying. Like, let's play the numbers game. How many no's do I got to get to a yes? What's my conversion ratio? And when I get to that perspective place, and I'm gamified in my business, I'm not focused on the one negative. I'm focused on the results of the whole, right? And that's really what perspective brings to the table.
That's it. And there's no perfect linear anything, whether you're ascending or descending. Everything's going to be bumpy. It's going to go up, it's going to go down. But the quicker you realize positive energy creates a more positive outcome, and you dismiss the things again that you can't control or that are detrimental, the quicker you are to rebound. And awareness is the first step.
Yeah. And we've talked many times about just the stories we tell ourselves, right? And when something happens, we form a judgment around it, and then we start to tell ourselves a story, and then we end up looking for evidence to prove ourselves right.
Yeah.
Well, I just need you tomorrow morning, Rick, to butter a slice of bread and flip it off your table and tell me how many times it takes to land on the right side up.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to butter both sides, and no matter what, I'm going to win, because I was probably not meant to eat buttered toast.
What do you want to challenge everybody around this week?
I think just be aware of your energy, Brett. I think the more connected you are to what's giving you fuel versus taking energy, because, some people in circumstances give energy and some take. I think just being a little more cognizant of the things that uplift and give you joy. And maybe it's go back to Hal Elrod's savers, get up and scribe and affirmations, and just go through a process to cleanse some of the negativity. And that's like a force field. So be aware of your energy, give it the credit it deserves, and then come up with strategies to move past it as quick as you can, but also arm yourself with literally a cloak of good energy by starting your day with Mojo Monday.
There you go. Rick, Hale, Mojo Monday, my friend.
Always awesome. Appreciate you guys, man. Have an awesome week. We love you.